Hey, the instructions I gave you aren't fixed at all. On top of that, the program is a complete mess. The project leader shouted at me furiously. Even after double checking, I couldn't find any issues, so I calmly said, "It's fine, there's no problem." It can't be. Why can't you just follow my instructions? I don't need your opinions. Do you understand? There's a difference in level between you, a state university graduate, and me, an elite Harvard graduate. In front of the corporate executives from the headquarters, I was being unfairly blamed and yelled at. Did you fix it yourself? It was one of the executives who asked me that question. I simply replied, yes. With a smile, the executive said, then it's fine. There shouldn't be a problem, leaving the project leader dumbfounded. My name is Dave. I'm a programmer, and currently, I work at the Los Angeles branch of a major tech company headquartered in New York. That said, I haven't been with this company for very long. I joined about a year ago after changing jobs. I'm still trying to get a feel for the company culture, or rather, since I'm not fond of standing out, I tend to keep my distance from others and try to avoid drawing attention to myself. While I have no trouble completing the tasks assigned to me, I consciously try to minimize my presence, which makes me a somewhat withdrawn figure among my coworkers in the same department. That's just who I am. My job is pretty straightforward. I simply complete the tasks assigned by my bosses. At first, people called me a yes man, but I always completed my work precisely and on time. In this industry, delivering work on schedule requires a certain level of competence, so the complaints eventually stopped. Now, people see me as someone who doesn't stand out but gets the job done, and that's the general perception of me. Honestly, I think that's just the right balance, and I carry out my work every day with that mindset. If you ask me if my work is boring, maybe it is. But I genuinely enjoy the current environment where I can finish my tasks properly and leave on time most of the time. One day, during my usual routine, Dave, Macy, do you have a moment? Our manager, Eugene, called me and my coworker, Macy. Macy and I had only exchanged a few words during the welcome party when I joined the company. With puzzled expressions, we walked over to Eugene. I'm sorry to call you out suddenly. Dave, you've been in our department for a year now. You've done a great job with your tasks. So I think it's time to entrust you with a project. Since it's your first time, Macy, can you support him and work on it together? Macy glanced at me with a slightly conflicted look before replying, sure. I bet it doesn't feel good to be assigned to work with me, sober and non-existent. I felt sorry for Macy like that. Determined not to cause Macy any trouble, I tackled the assigned project diligently. Initially, Macy seemed awkward when talking to me, but as she saw how I skillfully handled unforeseen issues during the project, she started to open up, saying, "You're pretty capable." Honestly, I was used to managing projects like these because of my previous job experience, so it wasn't a big challenge for me. Although I usually make an effort to stay under the radar, I know the importance of teamwork for project success. Not wanting to inconvenience Macy, I fully utilized my skills. Macy gradually opened up to me and said, "To be honest, I was wondering how it would be working with you, Dave. But you are very easy to work with and very helpful. I feel like I am being supported rather than supporting you." Together, we successfully delivered the project to the client. The accurate and timely work earned praise, and Eugene said, "You two were a great help. I'll be counting on you for more project tasks in the future," with a pleased expression. Macy even commented, "You're so skilled. You should put yourself out there more instead of trying to stay in the background." However, remembering past failures, I could only respond with a forced smile, saying, "Oh no, that's not for me." Thanks to the success of that project, the client gave positive feedback, and Eugene began pairing me and Macy for projects more often, which naturally brought us closer. Macy was a beautiful, highly capable career woman. Rather than being gentle, she was a strong, decisive person. although this industry is male-dominated. She never let her gender stop her from making firm points or addressing mistakes gracefully. She was popular in our department because of her competence and professionalism. As I started working more frequently with someone as admired as Macy, I couldn't help but develop feelings for her while also becoming the target of jealous stares. Among those who weren't thrilled about this was our co-worker, Noah. Everyone in the department knew that Noah had feelings for Macy. He made the most overt attempts to win her over, and many assumed he was the closest to her. Yet, of all people, it was me, someone who seemed to have no connection to Macy, who got to work with her often and grow closer to her, which visibly irritated Noah. Noah, who prided himself on being a Harvard graduate, began openly undermining me in front of Macy to win her favor. "Macy, why don't you have lunch with me instead of wasting your time with someone like Dave? I'm sure a Harvard graduate like me would have a much richer conversation with someone as brilliant as you. Hey Macy, are you free after work today? Let's be honest, Dave probably can't afford to treat you to dinner anyway since he just switched jobs. I'll cover everything, so let's go." It must be exhausting dealing with someone so boring, right? You can vent to me about anything. This kind of unbearable flirting and blatant jabs at me became more and more frequent, though I had worked so hard to remain inconspicuous. I decided to ignore it as much as possible since it didn't directly interfere with my work or escalate into outright harassment. Still, Macy rejected all of Noah's invitations, showing no interest in him whatsoever. Amid these mixed feelings, we were assigned to an unusual project that came directly from the New York headquarters to our Los Angeles branch. It was a project tailored for Los Angeles, with our branch taking the lead. Given the scale of the project, multiple members from our department were involved, including me, Macy, and Noah. As we progressed through the project as part of the same team, Noah's hostility toward me was ever more apparent. He frequently mocked me and offloaded trivial tasks onto me. Noticing this, Macy called him out, saying, "Noah, don't you think this behavior is childish? This is work. Act more professionally." But her words didn't deter him. If anything, his petty harassment worsened. He handed me an obviously incomplete program with instructions to fix it, and when I spent time addressing the issues, he would loudly say, "How long are you going to take on a simple fix? This is why you're useless." Once, when I stepped away from my desk, I returned to find a file I had been working on closed without being saved. I took responsibility for not being cautious and started locking my screen whenever I left my desk. But even then, Noah found a way to taunt me. Who locks their screen just for stepping away? This room is only accessible to the project team. What's the matter? Afraid people will see how slow and incompetent you are? Unlike before, his harassment began to interfere with my work, making me question the point of my efforts to remain unnoticed. Why did I even bother trying to fade into the background? My mental state started to deteriorate. But Macy's support helped me navigate through Noah's interference. I managed to stay on track and worked hard to ensure the project's success. This clearly irked Noah further. He tried to distance me from Macy by seating us far apart and interrupted whenever we talked, saying things like, "Do you really have time to chat right now?" He is a self-proclaimed elite graduate of Harvard University, and he is a guy who can get the job done. If only he could gain more experience, he could become a bigger player. That is also the reason why he was appointed as the leader in this project team. He has a good relationship with the people around him, probably because he has a lot of good friends. However, this backfired, as most people turned a blind eye to the harassment against me, and I gradually felt as if my heart was being sobered up. One day, we received word that a senior executive from the New York headquarters, who had been instrumental in securing this project, would visit for an inspection. Noah, eager to make a good impression, seemed temporarily too focused on his work to bother me, which gave me some relief. However, my brief sense of respite was soon shattered, Noah handed me a program, saying, "This thing is full of holes, as you can see. Fix it. Don't worry, I've clearly outlined how I want it done." Reluctantly, I accepted the task and immersed myself in the work. Though the program had flaws, it was also oddly complete in some aspects. His instructions, however, addressed issues unrelated to the actual problems. Fixing the program was time-consuming, leading to late nights. Eventually, the day of the executive's visit arrived, and the office was bustling from the morning. Finally finishing the program Noah had assigned me, I let out a sigh of relief. Suddenly, the office fell silent. The executive had arrived. As usual, I tried to stay unnoticed. "Nice to meet you all. I'm Harry. I appreciate your hard work. Let's get straight to it. What's the progress on this project?" The key points for review were shared in advance, but I'd like to hear how things stand in practice. Noah, as the project leader, responded confidently. "Yes, regarding the points you mentioned in the materials." From my seat, I couldn't see Harry, but his voice sounded familiar. As Noah continued presenting, his tone abruptly changed. "What is this? This is unacceptable." Startled, I looked up to see Noah glaring at me. "Hey! The instructions I gave you aren't fixed at all. The program is a complete mess," he shouted. His intense anger left me flustered. But I was confident in my work. Determined, I walked over to Noah. What I saw was a flawlessly corrected program and a familiar face looking at me in surprise. "You are?" Harry murmured, clearly recognizing me. Ignoring the tension, I reviewed the program and calmly stated to Noah, "There's no issue with this program. It's functioning perfectly." "That can't be true. Look, this section here doesn't match my instructions, you changed it on your own." Noah continued yelling furiously. I double-checked the documentation in my hand and confirmed that the program had been corrected exactly as instructed. However, upon closer inspection, I realized the original program was nearly complete. It became clear that Noah had given me a finished program and fabricated issues in an attempt to make it look like I had messed it up, setting a trap to discredit me. Still confident in my corrected program, I said firmly, "No, this is correct and functioning as intended. Why can't you just follow my instructions? I don't need your input. Do you understand the difference between you, a state university graduate, and me, a Harvard-educated elite? You were supposed to fix it exactly as I told you." Noah shouted repeatedly in front of Harry. I calmly pointed out the flaws in Noah's original program and explained how the incorrect instructions could have worsened it. Ironically, my adjustments had resolved the program's issues, making it even better. Noah, his face turning bright red, snapped, "What? There's no way someone like you could pull that off. You're just trying to show off in front of the executive, aren't you?" He advanced toward me aggressively, but before he could escalate further, Harry stepped in. "Did you fix this program?" Harry asked me directly. "Yes," I replied without hesitation. "Then it's fine." "There's no problem here," Harry said with a reassuring smile, leaving Noah frozen in disbelief. "What? Why?" Ignoring Noah, Harry turned to me with a familiar expression and asked, "By the way, what are you doing here?" "Well, I switched jobs," I replied sheepishly, scratching the back of my head. Harry was my former boss. After graduating from college, I had worked as a programmer at a major company where Harry had been my supervisor. Apparently, he had also left that company and was now working at the New York headquarters of my current company. "Dave, I was worried about you," Harry said, his voice tinged with nostalgia as he grabbed my shoulder with a near-tearful expression. "I'm sorry for what happened at that time," I replied, lightly patting his arm to reassure him. At my previous company, I had been overworked to the point of breaking. Due to my timid nature and a strong emphasis on teamwork, I could never refuse requests for help. coupled with my solid programming foundation from college and self-taught skills since high school, I became an immediate asset, one my coworkers exploited. Dave will handle it. You can count on Dave. Dave will figure it out. Those constant expectations weighed heavily on me. After a few years, both my body and mind gave out, and I had no choice but to leave. During my recovery, I took on small programming jobs through online platforms and rediscovered my love for this field. Encouraged by that realization, I decided to start fresh and found my current job. To avoid repeating the past, I had been working diligently while staying under the radar. Dave, you were truly exceptional. I've regretted losing such a talented and promising subordinate ever since. I never imagined we'd meet again like this, Harry said with a warm smile. He added, patting my shoulder as if to say, knowing someone of your caliber is part of this project gives me confidence. I'm counting on you. Actually, it's a waste for someone like you to remain in a general position. Once this project is done, I'll recommend you for a role like technical lead or software architect, something that matches your skills, Harry said enthusiastically. Wait, what? I began to protest. Hold on a minute. Why him? Noah shouted, unable to contain himself. Harry's expression shifted as he frowned. Why are you speaking about Dave like that? Do you even understand who he is? Fine, let me explain. Are you familiar with this system? Harry mentioned a renowned system in the industry. It was a well-known system that no one working in this industry would know. Of course. It's a widely adopted system that a major corporation released a few years ago. Noah replied, still confused but eager to show he knew the reference. Yes, and the person who developed that system is Dave, standing right here. Harry said, his tone laced with disbelief that Noah hadn't known. Noah's face turned pale as he stammered, that can't be. Before collapsing into his chair. After it came to light that Noah had given me false instructions out of personal spite, he was removed from the project. Feeling his pride shattered, Noah ultimately resigned from the company. But there is no doubt that he is also an elite. In fact, when we worked together, there were a number of aspects where I could sense his qualities. Although my experience was often superior to his. He boasts of being an elite Harvard graduate, and I sensed that this was genuine. If he could channel his ambition in a more constructive direction, I believed he could recover and thrive. That's what I thought. Months passed since the executive's visit. The large-scale project progressed smoothly and was finally completed. The client's feedback was overwhelmingly positive, and the project concluded as a resounding success. Thanks in part to Harry's endorsement, my reputation within the company soared, and I started receiving more significant responsibilities. While memories of past failures lingered, I made sure to carefully manage the workload I accepted, so as not to overburden myself again. Still, the stress must have shown on my face, as Macy, always perceptive and thoughtful, was there to assist me. Her support ensured I didn't feel overwhelmed. As I began regaining confidence little by little, discussions about promoting me to technical lead surfaced. But I still hadn't completely overcome my past trauma. While I enjoyed my work, the thought of managing both my responsibilities and leading a team felt overwhelming. I believed my current position was just right for me. When I declined the promotion repeatedly, word reached Harry, who contacted me directly. I heard you've been turning down the promotion. Is that true? It was just like him to get straight to the point in emails. Yes, it's true. I should have told you earlier, but it's too much for me. I broke down both physically and mentally before and ended up leaving my previous job. I can't risk repeating the same mistake. I'm fine staying as I am. I replied. While I appreciated Harry's faith in my abilities, I was already juggling important tasks that kept me on edge. With Macy's help, I was managing, but I feared taking on more might lead me down the same path as before. I couldn't let myself resign irresponsibly again. If that day ever came, I might as well consider freelancing and working independently. That was my honest thought. A few minutes later, Harry replied, "All right, let's talk it over. I'll be visiting the Santa Monica branch this weekend. Afterward, why don't we meet up at that bar we used to go to?" I hesitated for a moment but ultimately agreed. Harry was not only a supervisor I respected but also someone who genuinely cared about me. I replied, "Sure," because I felt the same way about wanting to talk slowly for the first time in a while. On the agreed day. "There you are, Dave. Over here. Sorry I'm late. Work ran a bit long." When I arrived, Harry was already waiting. Caught up in the chaos of a new project, I had been running behind schedule. "Don't worry about it. I heard you're working on that big project next. It'll be tough, but don't overdo it, alright?" Harry said, his tone casual and encouraging. I quickly brought up the main topic. "Harry, I was happy when you suggested making me the lead. It made me feel recognized, even now. But I can't do it. It's too much for me." I spoke plainly. And Harry scratched his head thoughtfully. "You're right. I wouldn't want to force the role on you either. It wouldn't do anyone any good if things went the same way as before. But Dave, the problem is that you're too hard on yourself. You keep telling yourself it's too much, that you'll fail to meet expectations, but that's because you're trying to do everything on your own. Don't you think?" His words hit me like a revelation. Indeed, I had been running away from the idea that I couldn't go any further on my own until now. "But so what do you want me to do?" I looked down, unable to see the answer. Having a sense of responsibility is a good thing. But you have too much sense of responsibility. Because he has too much, he becomes irresponsible. Too much responsibility leading to irresponsibility? I repeated, confused, and asked Harry a little more assertively, "What do you mean by that?" Taking responsibility for your work is important, no question about that. But when your sense of responsibility drives you to try to perform perfectly, to meet everyone's expectations, and to carry everything on your shoulders alone, you'll eventually reach your limit and break. And when you do, everything you were responsible for collapses. Isn't that the ultimate irresponsibility? His words struck a nerve, leaving me speechless. Taking responsibility for my work. That had always been my motto. But now, hearing Harry's perspective, I felt a deep unease. If carrying everything alone wasn't the right approach, then what should I do? "You're an incredibly cooperative person, Dave," Harry continued, his voice softer now. "But you don't need to shoulder everything alone. Looking back, I should have helped you realize this sooner, and that's on me. If you have a flaw, it's that you don't trust those around you enough." His words made me pause. I never wanted to become someone like that, someone who hurt others by shirking their duties. But isn't that just shifting the burden onto others? I asked, my voice tinged with doubt. Harry began speaking as if he had been waiting for me to ask. "It's natural for you to feel that way, Dave, but it's not quite right. Delegating work to someone you trust isn't the same as pushing it onto them. When you're in a leadership role, learning how to manage people is just as important as the work itself. And you've taught me that. The key is putting the right person in the right role, the right tool for the right task. Assigning tasks thoughtfully and ensuring no one feels overwhelmed or burdened unfairly is crucial. And when someone's struggling, it's okay to ask someone else with capacity to help. Work isn't meant to be done alone. Even so, I've been doing everything on my own for so long. I wouldn't even know how to rely on others." I lowered my head again, unable to meet his gaze. "Have you really been alone? When I visited before, I got the impression that there's already at least one person you trust and rely on." I froze, his words striking me unexpectedly. Macy. She had been there for me countless times, lending her help and advice when I needed it most. I had even entrusted her with tasks that were originally mine. It seems I'm right, good. Keep building on that. Expand your circle of trust, and you'll not only grow as a leader but as a person. Dave, you've got what it takes to become someone great, Harry said with a knowing smile. Though I wasn't entirely ready to embrace the idea of a promotion, Harry's words gave me the resolve to take a step forward. I decided to accept the challenge of becoming a technical lead. A few months later, my team had become lively and energetic. Dave, I never expected you to be such a talker. You've really surprised me. Your ideas are always so creative, Dave. Nobody else would have thought of that. Dave, if you have a moment, could you take a look at this? Hey, don't overload Dave just because he's capable. Let me help out. What's the issue? The once quiet, invisible yes man had become someone known for being approachable, resourceful, and respected by his co-workers. And Macy, as always, continued to support me, leading my team as technical lead for several months. I found myself not just working but enjoying conversations, exchanging ideas, and even hanging out with co-workers. Compared to my old company, the relationships I built here felt healthy and fulfilling. And so, Dave, you're probably getting comfortable with your new team. How about we put your skills to the test? Absolutely. I may still be an inexperienced leader, but I have my team now. Together, we'll achieve something great. Our team took on its first major project, and I addressed them with renewed confidence during a morning briefing. This is our first big project as a team. My instructions may still be a bit rough, but I'll assign tasks based on everyone's strengths. And, as always, I'll be hands-on with the project, so if there's anything you find difficult, come to me anytime. Let's make this a success together. At the end of the regular briefing, I will once again address the team members. Got it. Watching you lead this project is inspiring, Dave. I'll do my best, too. Looking around at my supportive team, I felt at ease. Dave, once again, best wishes from here on out. Don't be such a convert. You are fine the way you are. She giggles teasingly and says, "Then I'll take your word for it, I'm counting on you from now on." Let's work hard together, she smiles. In that moment, I couldn't help but think how wonderful Macy was. Looking back, it was thanks to Harry and Macy that I was able to take this step forward. When I once asked Macy why she supported me so much, she seemed surprised but then laughed. I guess I have a knack for management. Helping you do your best is just fun for me. Blushing slightly, she added, "Besides, I can't just leave you alone, Dave." Looking at her, I found myself wondering, could I really let my relationship with Macy end as just co-workers? The thought of it. I hated it. As I wrestled with my emotions, I finally came to terms with how I truly felt about her. Blushing as much as she had earlier, I managed to say, "Let me treat you to dinner sometime as a thank you." That was the best I could muster at the time. After that, we went out for dinner several times, and eventually, we began dating. Years later, we would get married, but at that moment, neither of us could have imagined that future. Through this journey, I learned that responsibility is not something to be pushed onto others, nor something to be carried alone. It's a shared weight that a team must shoulder together. By placing people in the roles where they can shine, offering a hand when someone struggles, and lending support when you have the capacity to do so, you create the foundation for true teamwork. I came to deeply understand that relying on others and accepting their support is not a sign of weakness but rather a source of strength that amplifies everyone's potential, including my own. With mutual care and consideration, any challenge can be overcome not just in work, but in life as well. Emily muttered under her breath, her eyes welling up with tears and her body trembling. In response, 3 foreign men laughed and closed in on her, speaking in a foreign language. Understanding their language, I placed my hand on Emily's shoulder and pulled her away from them. I glared at the men and asked in their language, "What do you want?" "My name is Lucas, 30 years old. Currently, I'm working a part-time job directing traffic during late-night hours." "Hey, rookie, get that equipment over there, will you?" This is the kind of brash language thrown around at this slightly rough workplace. But since it doesn't require much talking, I kind of like it. "Hey, hey, can't you hear me, Lucas?" I was still lost in thought when I realized someone was calling me. "Ha? Me?" Raising my voice in surprise, I turned toward the direction of the sound, where a middle-aged man in workwear was frowning at me. At that moment, I heard quick footsteps approaching. Yes. Yes. Is this it? I'll take it." The cheerful voice came from Emily, who had turned toward the middle-aged man. She's also working the same traffic control part-time job as me. She's 21 years old but my senior. Always cheerful, lively, and a cute girl. The man grumbled, looking back at me while receiving the equipment. "Youngsters these days are useless. When I was your age, I'd hang on to every word my senior said without fail." Emily laughed brightly at his complaint. "You're amazing. So cool. I need to learn from you." With her cheerful tone, she diffused the atmosphere and promptly returned to her post. In my heart, I silently thanked her. Later, during a break, I properly expressed my gratitude. Thank you for earlier." I stammered as I thanked her, and her face lit up with a big smile. "Oh no. I didn't do anything. It's tough staying awake during the night shift, huh?" Assuming my slow reaction was due to being sleepy, Emily took a sip from her thermos. "I make my own coffee and bring it. It helps wake me up a bit." As I gazed blankly at her, Emily pointed to her thermos with a smile. "That's a good idea. Thanks. I'm not a fan of canned coffee, but bringing my own sounded like a decent plan," I thought vaguely. While I was lost in such thoughts, a brief silence fell between us. Then, Emily hesitantly broke it. Were you okay earlier?" I tilted my head, puzzled. "The driver. He was yelling, wasn't he? Saying, 'Let me go first.'" Her words brought back the memory. When a gap opened up between cars, I stopped a speeding vehicle to let the one waiting in Emily's lane go first. The driver I stopped stuck his head out the window and angrily yelled that he was already in motion and shouldn't have been halted. I let out a sheepish smile. "Yeah, I'm fine." Hearing my response, Emily looked relieved. "Good. Seriously, we're just following the manual, letting cars go in order. No need to yell at us." At first, stuff like that scared me so much. "Lucas, you've got a strong heart. I don't let stuff like that bother me much. But yeah, I can see how it'd be scary for you, being a girl." When I said that, Emily blushed slightly. "I feel like I need to toughen up, though." Her words made me tilt my head in curiosity. "Why?" Emily pursed her lips slightly, looking a bit embarrassed. "Well, I want to go abroad someday. I feel like you really have to speak your mind in other countries, you know?" Her words made me widen my eyes in surprise. "Abroad? Really? Where to?" Emily tilted her head, pondering. "I've been thinking about a few places, but right now, probably Germany." Hearing that, my heart skipped a beat. When I went on a trip to Europe as a celebration for getting into college, I thought Germany was the most beautiful. So, I'm saving up now. Next year, I want to take a break from college and go on a working holiday visa. That explained why she was working these late-night shifts. I wanted to keep the conversation going, but the signal for the end of the break forced me back to my post reluctantly. For the next few days, our shifts didn't overlap, and I didn't see Emily. I spent my days quietly directing traffic at a site without her, all the while wanting to talk more about Germany. A week later, when I arrived for my shift, I saw Emily again. Feeling a bit brighter, I started to walk toward her only to hear a man's angry shouting. Looking closer, I saw Emily's wrist was being grabbed, her face pale, her lips moving soundlessly in fear. I broke into a sprint toward her. What on earth were the other workers doing? Many of the men at the site were strong, physically capable, and used to tough work. Why wasn't anyone helping her? As I got closer, the answer became clear. The man holding Emily was a massive foreigner. Shouting loudly in a foreign language and with a formidable build, he was intimidating enough to make the others hesitate. Still, it was shameful for grown men to be paralyzed by fear over something like that. I dashed past the hesitant onlookers and reached the scene. Emily was trembling, her eyes brimming with tears as she muttered softly. 3 foreign men were laughing as they closed in on her, speaking in their native language. Understanding their words, I put my hand on Emily's shoulder and pulled her away from them. I glared at the men and asked in German, "What do you want?" The fact that I spoke German caused everyone around us to freeze for a moment. The German men turned to look at me. Their breath reeked of alcohol. Their faces were flushed. It was obvious they were heavily intoxicated. They rambled about how they just wanted to invite a Japanese woman to join them since they had come all this way to visit Japan. Their explanation was nonsensical. I told them she had work to attend to and scolded them for ganging up on a single woman, saying it was disgraceful behavior unbecoming of Germans. That made one of them snap, and he raised his fist toward me. Emily let out a scream. "Don't worry," I whispered silently to myself. I grabbed the man's shirt firmly, yanking him down to the ground. Without hesitation, I transitioned into a grappling move, pinning him securely to the road. I glared at the other 2 German men. "If you want to cause more trouble, I'll take both of you on next." When I threatened them in German, the 2 other men flinched in fear, and the one I had pinned to the ground began slapping the pavement repeatedly. It was likely his way of signaling surrender. Once they seemed to have calmed down, I let the man go. The Germans quickly began apologizing profusely. I sighed and turned to Emily. "So, what do you want to do? Should we call the police?" When I asked in Japanese, Emily shook her head. "I didn't get hurt or anything." I glanced at her arm, the one that had been grabbed. "Are there any bruises?" Blushing slightly, Emily nodded silently. I turned back to the German men. They all flinched at my movement. "She says she'll forgive you. But normally, we'd call the police for this." "Don't embarrass yourselves abroad," I warned them in German. The men hung their heads and quickly left. Watching their retreating figures, I sighed deeply, only to hear the surrounding crowd erupt with noise. They were asking rapid-fire questions. What language was that? Do I know judo? Their excited chatter was so fast that I could barely catch what they were saying. I raised a hand to quiet them. "Excuse me. I've lived abroad for a long time, so Japanese is a little difficult for me. Please speak slowly." Everyone stared at me, eyes wide. "Wait. You struggle with Japanese? But you sound fluent?" Scratching my head, I replied. "Well, both my parents are Japanese, so it's fine, but when people speak quickly all at once, it's hard for me." Hearing this, one of the older men clapped his hands in realization. "So that's why you were so unresponsive before." I nodded in response. When I explained that I hadn't realized the term newbie was referring to me, everyone apologized. "No, it's my fault for not explaining," I said, feeling sheepish. At that, everyone laughed loudly. From that point on, my part-time job life improved drastically. Now that the workers understood why I wasn't talkative, they became much kinder. Some even went out of their way to speak slowly, which felt a bit comical but warmed my heart with their thoughtfulness. There were even guys who had practiced judo before, and having been taught judo by my father. I found myself engaging in lively conversations about the sport. Most importantly, my relationship with Emily grew much closer. "Why didn't you tell me you could speak German?" she asked, her curiosity piqued. Before I could answer, the break ended, cutting our conversation short. The truth is, due to my parents' circumstances, I had spent my childhood moving from one European country to another. Among all the places I lived, I spent the longest time in Germany. While I loved Germany, I was also curious to know why Emily had taken such an interest in the country. When I shared this with her, her eyes widened in surprise. "You moved around Europe? So, Lucas, how many languages do you speak?" I counted on my fingers. "Let's see. Japanese, German, French, Italian, and English, I guess." Her eyes grew even wider. 5 languages. That's amazing. Then she looked down, her expression clouded. I said I wanted to go to Germany, but I can't really speak German at all. I've been studying it, but it didn't work at all with those guys. I'm so naive. She drooped her shoulders dejectedly. Well, those guys were really drunk. I tried to reassure her, but she shook her head. No. I was too naive. Trying to juggle college and part-time work, I let my German studies slide. I thought I could manage somehow. But this won't work. I won't gain anything if I go to Germany like this. Her earnestness made her even more endearing. "Can you teach me German?" Without hesitation, I nodded. "Of course." But. Then I realized something. "It might only be temporary, or maybe not, I'm not sure," I said, hesitating. Emily tilted her head, puzzled. "I'm only staying in Japan for a limited time," I explained. "That's why I'm working part-time." I decided to share my story. Since childhood, I had been moving from one European country to another. Both my parents are Japanese, so they made sure I learned Japanese at home. Because of their jobs, we lived in Europe for most of my life, but when I was in college, my parents returned to Japan. I chose to stay in Germany, where I was attending college. Even after graduating, I worked and lived in Germany. But a few months ago, my parents contacted me. They told me my grandmother had been diagnosed with cancer. She had lived a lonely life after my grandfather passed, especially while my parents were abroad. Out of concern, my parents had been living with her since returning to Japan. Before she passed, they wanted her to spend time with me, her grandson, and asked me to come back to Japan. I wanted to create more memories with her, too. Whenever I returned to Japan, she always treated me kindly. She would spoil me with lots of delicious Japanese food. The fact that I had so few memories with my grandmother made me feel lonely. I had even fewer memories of my grandfather. I didn't want to part from her with regrets. That's why I decided to return to Japan temporarily. After spending her remaining time with her, I plan to go back to Germany. I've taken a long-term leave of absence from work. When I explained the reason, they readily agreed. Even when I told them I wasn't sure how long it would be, their response didn't change. So, I might suddenly have to go back to Germany. But my grandma's doing fine right now, I added with a smile. Emily's face lit up with relief. That's great. Not because I want you to teach me German, but because your grandma is doing well. What a kind-hearted person, I thought. Yeah. I chose the night shift so I could spend as much time with her during the day. The other day, we visited a big shrine together. It was amazing. My grandmother had happily joined me for the visit, and we even bought matching amulets. I hope she stays healthy for as long as possible. Alright then, let's hope for your grandma's long life, and I look forward to learning German. Emily said enthusiastically. I nodded with a smile. For the next few months, Emily's schedule became even busier. She balanced college classes, German language school, her night shift, and our German lessons. We reviewed what she learned in school and practiced practical German phrases, with me sharing insights from my own experiences. Her eyes sparkled with excitement as she practiced her pronunciation. I felt grateful to help her prepare for her future. I taught her German with a smile on my face. A few months later, "Here I go," Emily exclaimed. I had come to Narita Airport to see her off. Today, she was leaving for Germany on a year-long working holiday. Her German has improved considerably. With this level, she shouldn't have much trouble managing daily life. We exchanged contact information so she could reach out if she needed help. "I'm looking forward to seeing you in Germany," I said with a faint smile. Emily's expression turned sad. "It's no good." "Please stay in Japan until I come back," Emily said. Her plea made me furrow my brows into a troubled expression. That would be difficult. My grandmother's care had entered a delicate phase, with my parents and the hospital discussing whether to transition her to palliative care. I forced a smile. "If I can manage it, we'll meet in Japan," I said. Emily nodded with a soft smile. "Thank you so much. Not just for seeing me off, but for everything. I'll experience as much as I can over there." With those words, she walked straight toward the boarding gate. 1 month after seeing Emily off to Germany, I bid farewell to my grandmother in her final journey to heaven. Even after entering palliative care, she often expressed her gratitude during moments of clarity. "Thank you for coming back from your life in Germany to live with me. I'm going to heaven full of happy memories. I'm such a lucky grandma. I'll have to tell your grandpa all about you when I see him," she said repeatedly. I also expressed my gratitude. "Living in Japan with you and visiting so many places together has given me wonderful memories." "Thank you for that. Plus, coming back led to some amazing new encounters." She smiled faintly. "I'm glad. I was worried I might have disrupted your life, Lucas." I shook my head firmly. "Not at all. I love you, Grandma. I'm sorry I couldn't spend more time with you." She held my hand tightly. Her hand was frail, wrinkled, and cold. "No more apologies, okay? I was happy I got to be your grandma." I held back tears. "And I'm happy to be your grandson." I refused to use the past tense. "Not yet." This conversation, held just days before her passing, turned out to be the last meaningful exchange we had. After that, her words came in fragments, and communication became difficult. When she peacefully drew her last breath, I wept quietly alongside my parents. 3 months later, Lucas. I reunited with Emily at an airport in Germany. Having completed all the memorial services for my grandmother and left my part-time job behind, I had returned to resume my life in Germany. Emily bowed deeply as soon as she saw me. "My deepest condolences," she said. Seeing her sad expression, I gave her a bright, reassuring smile. "Thank you." I was able to say goodbye with no regrets. My cheerful demeanor seemed to put Emily at ease. "All right then. From now on, no Japanese. We're in Germany, after all." When I suddenly declared a ban on speaking Japanese, Emily panicked. "Ha? Wa? All German?" she stammered, mixing German and Japanese. Her flustered reaction was adorable. Although I resumed my hectic work schedule in Germany, leaving little time to see Emily, she quickly adapted to her new life. However, Emily had found a part-time job on her own and was already living a fulfilling life in Germany. It seemed she had made friends and was actively enjoying herself. While I had hoped to spend more time with her, I felt oddly proud thinking about how a young Japanese woman was embracing Germany's charms. There was one event, however, that I really wanted Emily to attend. Oktoberfest? Of course, I plan to go. "But it gets so crowded, I'm worried about navigating it," she said. I shook my head firmly. "The brewery I work for is setting up a booth at Oktoberfest. Why don't you try working with us?" I think it would be a great experience for you. Emily's eyes lit up as I suggested. Really? That's perfect. I was actually about to leave my current part-time job and had been looking for the next one. Emily replied enthusiastically. It seemed like a perfect opportunity, and I felt a little relieved. Oktoberfest in Germany is held every year from late September to October. Our brewery gets extremely busy preparing for it. During the event, the workload is overwhelming. While I usually handle administrative tasks, I take on a variety of roles during the festival. I hoped it would be a stimulating experience for Emily. And then, in mid-October, Emily and I were finally able to relax and enjoy a meal together at a bar in Germany for the first time in a while. Cheers to your hard work, I said. After finishing the whirlwind period of Oktoberfest and wrapping up the cleanup and other miscellaneous tasks, I was finally able to catch my breath. Emily, on the other hand, wore a radiant smile. I only did the simple tasks, so I'm not tired at all, but you were literally running around everywhere. Great job, Lucas. Raising our beer mugs, we clinked them together with a satisfying clink. Emily, who had quite the tolerance for alcohol, downed her beer in hearty gulps. Her bold style of drinking was refreshing to watch. Placing her empty mug on the table, she turned to me with a radiant smile. "I've found what I want to do," she declared. Her words took me by surprise. "I want to bring Oktoberfest to Japan," she said with sparkling eyes. I blinked, taken aback. Oktoberfest events are already held in various places in Japan. I want to be part of them. Having experienced the real Oktoberfest here, I want to contribute to it. Her beaming face was adorable. But at the same time, I felt a twinge of sadness. Now that Emily had discovered her dream, she would chase it with youthful determination, possibly leaving me behind as she forged ahead. Still, I knew I had to support her growth. As I was lost in those thoughts, Emily's hand gently touched mine. My heart skipped a beat. "Lucas, will you do it with me?" she asked softly. I widened my eyes in shock. "What?" Emily intertwined her fingers with mine. "My time in Germany is almost up. When I left Japan, I thought I'd see you again someday. But if I go back to Japan and you stay here in Germany, I might never see you again." Her tearful eyes met mine. "I don't want that." "I want to stay with you, Lucas, forever," she said, her voice trembling. Her heartfelt confession made my chest tighten. "You're so young, Emily. You shouldn't decide your life like this because of someone like me," I said, trying to reason with her. Tears streamed down her cheeks. "Am I not attractive to you? I don't care about the age difference. I love you. But, am I not attractive enough to make you forget about it?" I swallowed hard, my mind racing. What's the right thing to do? How should I respond? After a moment of internal struggle, I finally spoke, my voice trembling. "Of course, you're attractive. Do you have any idea how hard it's been for me to suppress my feelings for you all this time?" Emily's eyes widened in surprise. "Really? You're not lying?" She started, but I gently stopped her with my hand. "But, Emily, I can't imagine settling down in Japan permanently. What about Germany? If you join my company, you can be involved in Oktoberfest every year. Wouldn't that work?" When I made my suggestion, Emily hesitated. "I've thought about that too, but I want to bring this culture back to Japan. Even though there are already Oktoberfest-style events there, I want to offer something even closer to the authentic experience. I want to be a bridge between Japan and Germany," she said with earnest eyes. Her sincerity made me sigh in reluctant surrender. "All right, let's take some more time to talk it through." "We still have time," I said. But as I watched her beam with excitement, I had a feeling my future was already decided. 10 years later. Oktoberfest tents are so much bigger in Germany. Emily whined like a child. I held up a hand to pause her. But just having a big tent won't mean anything if it goes unused. We have to think about attendance numbers, I pointed out. Emily puffed her cheeks in frustration. But those giant tents are part of the charm. I chuckled. To me, the charm is in the bustling atmosphere, I replied. Emily raised an eyebrow. You know, sitting elbow to elbow with strangers in a packed tent. Bumping into them and clinking glasses to toast, those are the moments that make it special. Emily tilted her head in thought. That might be tough for Japanese sensibilities, she said. I smiled slightly. Didn't you say you wanted to bring an authentic Oktoberfest to Japan? Her words caught in her throat, and after a moment, she conceded with a grin. All right. We'll make the tent this big, and I'll do my best to pack it with people. We settled on the compromise and began making preparations. Since then, I moved to Japan. I gave in to Emily's persistence and passion. After her working holiday ended and she returned to college in Japan, we had a year of long-distance dating. I was the first to give in. I couldn't stand being apart from Emily any longer. Emily's dream of hosting Oktoberfest in Japan only grew stronger. By the time she graduated, she had already founded her own event company. Eventually, I returned to Japan to join her growing company. After graduating from college and officially stepping into her role as CEO, Emily became an incredibly capable leader. What started as a company assisting large corporations quickly grew. And now she's able to organize Oktoberfest events that rival the ones in Germany. Emily's passion is making her dream come true, I remarked. When I said that, Emily flashed a beaming smile at me. Yes, it's all thanks to you, Lucas. Thank you for sticking with someone like me. I laughed. True enough, running alongside you, I didn't even notice I'd hit 40 already. As I organized some event proposals, Emily's hand touched mine. I have a new dream, can I tell you? She asked. Surprised, I nodded. What is it? Emily leaned in close to my ear and softly said, I want to have a child with you, dropping an emotional bombshell. I let out a wry smile. Finally? 7 years of marriage, and now you say it? Emily stuck out her tongue playfully. Sorry. I was too busy chasing my dreams. Shaking my head, I reassured her. We had married when Emily was 25, but her relentless drive to grow her company left little time for us to simply be a couple. While it was a bit lonely at times, I never minded, as we were always partners in work. Have you finally found some calm? I asked. Emily nodded earnestly. Are you tired of me? Have you had enough? Do you hate me now? She asked hesitantly. I gripped her hand firmly. There's no way I could ever hate you. I've loved the way you've charged forward with everything, and I always will. As I held her hand, I glanced down at the event plans in front of me. How much of Germany's vibrant spirit could we recreate here? The thought of our next event and the future we were building together filled me with excitement. Who do you think you are, acting so high and mighty? Just shut up and follow me, the next president. The loud voice of Seth, a new employee, echoed across the venue for the opening ceremony of the new business. He was likely drunk, his bravado swelling with every word. Not content with just hurling insults, he dumped a plate of pasta on my head. Old man, just sit there and eat your pasta quietly. My buddy, Lucas, rushed over in a panic at Seth's outrageous behavior, raising his voice in protest. James, are you okay? You there, what do you think you're doing? What's your problem, old man? You have no right to lecture me. Who do you think you're talking to? What's your name? Huh? And who the hell are you? Why should the next president like me take orders from you? Get out of my face. Seriously. People who can't pull their weight are so annoying. This must be the very definition of being at a loss for words. He's the next president? How on earth did that idea even come up? The next president? Who said that? I did, old man. And why would you be the next president? Old man, are you even an employee here? Don't you know the president, Mr. Taylor? That's pathetic. If you don't know, I'll tell you. The president here is David Taylor, who is my dad. So naturally, I'm the next president. Wait, what? Is our company a hereditary business? I tilted my head at the mention of a system I'd never heard of. Our company isn't hereditary, but it's merit-based. The chances of you becoming the next president are exactly 0. Huh? What are you talking about, old man? Don't get all bitter and make excuses. Enough of this. Do you even know who you're talking to? Before Lucas could finish, David Taylor appeared, his face pale, rushing over from across the room. Grabbing Seth's head and pushing it down, he frantically apologized. You idiot! What do you think you're doing? My deepest apologies for my son's outrageous behavior. Dad, what the hell? Why are you apologizing to these nobodies? Shut up. Just be quiet and apologize already. As I glanced back and forth between the apologetic David and his arrogant, insolent son, I let out a quiet sigh. I had thought David was a more capable leader, but it seems I had overestimated him. For the sake of the company, it looks like I'll have to make a decision. Seth, I regret to inform you that your father, the current president, has just been removed from his position. What? Excuse me? This is the perfect opportunity to announce it. David Taylor has been officially dismissed. Wait, what's going on? Why am I being removed? You've got to be kidding me. My dad's the president. And I'm the CEO. CEO? What the hell is that? Don't give me this nonsense. It's unbelievable. He doesn't even know what a CEO is? How did someone like this even get into our company? I heaved a deliberate, exaggerated sigh before announcing the dismissal loud enough for everyone in the room to hear. My name is James, 53 years old. I was born in a place surrounded by mountains and the sea, a town with a small fishing port. While we weren't wealthy, we never went hungry, and life with my kind. Warm-hearted parents and slightly mischievous older sister was quite comfortable. Growing up on fresh seafood and mountain produce, I've loved eating since childhood. I wasn't picky at all and ate heartily, no matter what was served. James, you really love your food. It's so wonderful to see you enjoying it so much. You've got a great appetite. I'll keep working hard to make sure you can always eat your fill of delicious food. Grow big and strong. Because I ate with such enthusiasm wherever I went, the adults around me often gave me little treats. I caught too much fish today. We can't finish it all, so here, James, you can have some. Thank you. I made a cake, James. Would you like some? Yes. I'd love some. Children are the treasures of any community. As one of those treasures, I was doted on by everyone in the neighborhood. At first, my enthusiastic appetite made everyone happy, and they pinned their hopes on my growth. But as my eating habits became increasingly voracious, my body began to grow rounder day by day. James, don't you think you're eating a little too much? Don't worry. Kids are better off a little chubby. By the time he hits adolescence, he'll start caring about his appearance. Really? I'm not so sure about that. It's fine. James takes after me. That's what I'm worried about. What's that supposed to mean, dear? Nothing in particular. Don't worry about it. My parents laughed and bantered over silly things, but mothers tend to have a keen sense about these matters. When I reached adolescence, instead of becoming self-conscious about my appearance, my appetite grew even stronger. There isn't a bigger lunchbox than this one, James. You're the only kid whose lunchbox is larger than their textbooks. I'm one of a kind. That optimism is one of your best traits, James. I suppose I can't complain. As I grew older, my world expanded and I made more friends. Naturally, this meant my eating habits began to change. A diet rich in fresh seafood and mountain vegetables, centered around traditional Japanese meals, kept me healthy. Even if I overate a little and gained some weight, I could quickly shed it. But junk food was a different story. In middle school, I discovered the taste of burgers, chips, and frappuccinos. These were dangerous. Once fueled by natural ingredients, my body gradually became saturated with additives. My weight spiraled out of control, far outpacing any attempts at dieting, and my face became riddled with acne. James, you need to go on a diet. My pant size hasn't changed yet, so I'm fine. What are you talking about? The sumo team scouted you just the other day. The wrestling team invited you too, didn't they? Well, I am popular. That's not the kind of popularity you should be aiming for. You need to attract girls. Mothers can be so strict. Honestly, walking with you is embarrassing. At least do something about your acne. Acne is a badge of youth. What? Youth is about romance, not acne. That's why only sweaty guys are drawn to you. Here, I've got a lotion that works for acne. Try it. Lotion? That's kind of embarrassing. Your acne-covered face is way more embarrassing. Fine. Mom, can I have some allowance? I just gave you some last week. Don't you understand, Mom? A middle schooler's allowance disappears into food as soon as they get it. When you're young, you're always hungry. Eat as much as you want. But James, don't forget you're single-handedly raising this family's food expenses. Yes. Hearing all that, even I started to feel guilty. But that didn't mean I could stop eating. So, what should I do? If I couldn't stop eating, I could at least change how I ate. With that in mind, I began paying attention to avoid putting unnecessary things into my body. I had chicken nuggets with no sauce. I switched my order from frappuccinos to affogato. It might not seem like a big difference, but at the time, this was the best I could manage. When I started high school, I made new friends. One of them, Lucas, was a bit unusual. In the bustling classroom, he was always sitting alone, quietly reading a book. He wasn't gloomy, but he was calm and came across as incredibly intelligent. Hey, you're always reading, huh? Is it really that interesting? I was too absorbed in playing and eating to care about studying or reading. So, I became curious about Lucas, who seemed like my complete opposite, and struck up a conversation. It's interesting. More interesting than all-you-can-eat food? What kind of comparison is that? Lucas smiled slightly, and it struck me how different he was from the overly serious, quiet image I had of him. He actually seemed approachable. So I kept the conversation going. What kind of books do you read? I don't limit myself to any particular genre. I don't want to close off possibilities. I just pick up anything that piques my interest. Even diet books? Have you finally decided to go on a diet? What? I felt a twinge of sadness, realizing that even someone I barely knew, like Lucas, was concerned about me. Isn't half your body made of cholesterol, James? It's not that bad. But yeah, maybe I'd like to slim down a bit. Are you serious? Kind of. If you're really serious, I'll help you. Really? But only if you're serious. If you're half-hearted about it, I won't get involved. Lucas was much more direct than I had imagined. I'd assumed he was a timid bookworm, but clearly, I'd been mistaken. Lucas, please guide me. I wasn't joking. At the time, I was seriously thinking about dieting but had no idea how to start and felt completely lost. If Lucas was willing to help me, maybe I could change. For the first time in my life, I decided to rely on someone else. Alright, starting tomorrow. What are you talking about? We're starting today. What? You want to lose weight, right? Yeah. Then let's go to the library. Sorry, but I already made plans with Thomas and the others today. Cancel them. What? From today on, no hamburgers. But we're going to karaoke. Soda's banned too. What? If you don't like it, I'm out. I'm so sorry. With my head hanging low, I followed Lucas to the library. As we settled into the library lobby, Lucas said, "Can you write down everything you've eaten over the past week? Details of my meals? Write down everything you eat, the time you eat it, and exactly what you ate." I can't remember all of that. Just write down as much as you can recall. As I began writing down my meals from the past week, Lucas's expression gradually darkened. By the third day, a deep furrow appeared between his brows. When I got to the fifth day, he stopped me. Hold on. Are you seriously eating all this? Is it too much? It's not just too much. You're completely overloading yourself. You're exaggerating. As I tried to laugh it off, Lucas shot me a sharp glare, snatched the notebook, and began writing something down. Here's the number of calories you're consuming daily. And this is the estimated number of calories you burn in a day. If you want to lose weight, your calorie intake needs to be lower than your expenditure. For our age, the daily energy requirement is about 2,800 calories. Wow, I think I've heard that before. We learned it in middle school. Did we? I don't remember that. Let's break it down by meal. Ignoring my comment, Lucas pressed on. For example, on this day, you had 3 slices of toast slathered with butter for breakfast. Butter's great. It's delicious. For lunch, you had savory bread, sweet bread, and even a cream-filled donut. The savory bread from the school store is amazing. After school, you stopped at a convenience store and had 3 sweet buns and an ice cream. I also had a bag of chips. This is the total number of calories you consumed that day. When Lucas showed me the numbers, I was stunned. I wasn't just over the calorie limit, and I had easily surpassed it. Surpassed it? No, I had doubled it. Actually, I had gone far beyond even that. I felt horrified by myself. Not to brag, but I don't exercise. It's not that I dislike it, but I just find it too bothersome. Back in middle school, I was in a sports club, so I had no choice but to stay active. But in high school, I happily didn't join any clubs and spent my days completely detached from physical activity. Even I could easily imagine the consequences of continuing my current eating habits. It would lead to something irreparable. First, let's start by reducing your calorie intake. Got it. I nodded obediently and listened carefully to the improvements Lucas suggested. The first step was to reduce portion sizes overall. Snacks were limited to 1 a day. He gave me lots of detailed advice, but the one thing that stood out to me was olive oil. Using olive oil and natural rock salt as a substitute for salad dressing turned out to be a hit, even with my beauty-conscious sister. It quickly became a staple at our family table. How did you know about something as fancy as olive oil? It's in a lot of movies. Movies? I'm a big fan of Audrey Hepburn. Lucas's slightly blushing face was endearing, though I had no idea who he was talking about. Who's that? You don't know Audrey Hepburn? That's basic knowledge. I wasn't sure how basic that knowledge was, but when Lucas took me to watch one of her movies, I was blown away. Audrey Hepburn was adorable, elegant, and had a fairy-like charm. But what intrigued me even more than her was Italy. Pasta, pizza, olive oil, and gelato. I became completely captivated by the stylish and delicious world of Italian cuisine. So, in the end, it's all about food for you, huh? Yeah, but I'm not mindlessly eating like before. By then, I was not only counting calories but also making my own lunches. Cooking was fascinating. The possibilities were endless, and flavors and appearances could change entirely with just a little creativity. Even plating and dishware were part of the art of cooking, making it an incredibly creative process. While I had always hated studying, cooking, which required ingenuity, seemed to suit me. Eventually, cooking became more than just a hobby. It became my life and my future. After high school, I had no hesitation about enrolling in culinary school. I worked hard, so you could go to college. My dad sighed and repeatedly urged me to go to college, but eventually, he came to understand that I was serious about becoming a chef and began to support me. If you're serious about it, then go all out. Forget culinary school, go to Italy. Well, I need to learn the basics first. What are you talking about? If you're serious, you should learn where it all began. You're right, but it still feels too soon. There's no such thing as too soon when it comes to chasing your dreams. His words made me happy, but I wasn't ready to head straight to Italy. I wasn't confident enough. I wanted to build a foundation first. Culinary school was exciting and full of discoveries. With constant practice, my skills steadily improved. One of the special lecturers was a chef from a top Italian restaurant, and watching him work up close was an unparalleled experience. I became even more obsessed with cooking and utterly fascinated by the world of olive oil. The chef must have seen some potential in me, as he reached out with an offer. James, would you be interested in studying in Italy? At your restaurant? Of course. If you're willing, I'd love for you to work with me. As long as I can eat your pasta every day. Va bene. It was a somewhat impure motive, but I wasn't uninterested. More than anything, being invited by a top chef in Italy lit a fire in my heart. After graduating, I followed his invitation and set off for Italy to train. The training was grueling and rigorous, but my friendship with Lucas kept me going. While I had gone to culinary school, Lucas had enrolled in a university in Tokyo. At that time, we made a promise. One day, I'll open my own restaurant. When I do, will you run it with me? You mean as a co-owner? Yeah. I'm great at cooking, but I'm hopeless with numbers. You'd go bankrupt immediately. Pretty much. All right, then. I'll study business management at university. Perfect. I'll handle the flavors, and you handle the finances. With our odd couple dynamic, we'll do great. Our taste in food and women is perfectly aligned too. Exactly. 10 years from now, in Italy. Va bene. I later learned that va bene, meaning, okay, was the first Italian phrase Lucas ever memorized. 10 years later, we reunited in Italy as promised, but I was still in the middle of my training. And Lucas was working in import-export at a trading company. Originally, Lucas had worked at a bank, but after about 5 years, he transitioned to the trading industry. The reason he gave surprised me, saying, "You never know, we might end up dealing with Italian tableware or ingredients someday." What's the deal? Are you planning to conquer the world? If we're doing this, we have to aim for the top. Let's rule the world. Sure. At the age of 32, we opened a small restaurant, but the start was anything but smooth. For foreigners like us to be accepted in the heart of Italy, we needed a tremendous amount of determination and effort. Although we were confident in the taste of our food, success wasn't as simple as that. A significant factor in our success was the support of our staff. Among them, my wife played a huge role. Nicola, whom I met during my training, was a stunning woman who reminded me of Audrey Hepburn, far too accomplished to be with someone like me. I'm the one who's a Hepburn fan, though. She may look like Audrey, but she's not Audrey. Too bad for you. Yeah, Audrey was like a fairy, wasn't she? Hearing this, Nicola would laugh heartily. She was undoubtedly the star of our restaurant. Whereas Lucas and I were stoic and stubborn, Nicola always brightened the restaurant's atmosphere with her gentle demeanor and radiant smile, balancing out our rigid personalities. I've noticed something recently. Japanese food pairs really well with Italian cuisine. True, pasta and soy sauce are a great match. And the combination of natto, which is fermented soybeans, and perilla leaf is unbeatable. Why not try experimenting with it? Let's do it. Just, no natto, please? Understood. With Nicola's advice, we incorporated Japanese flavors into our Italian dishes. The result was a hit. And our restaurant gained a modest but growing reputation locally. Before we knew it, the business expanded, growing into a holding company with its headquarters in Italy and several subsidiaries under its umbrella. 8 years ago, we opened a branch in Japan and appointed Lucas as its president. However, it wasn't long before Lucas approached me with a request. I'd like to step back into a behind-the-scenes role. Who's going to be the president, then? There's someone I have in mind. Unlike me, he's sociable and highly trusted by the employees. I think he'd be excellent at motivating the team. If you're confident in him, I'll trust your judgment. Taking Lucas's advice, I appointed David Taylor as the president. David was known for being thoughtful and considerate, and is one of the founding members of the Japan branch. He had been Lucas's right-hand man from the beginning. With someone like him in charge, there was no reason to worry. Lucas's decision to step back was to focus on a new venture. Our restaurant and the Italian gourmet goods shop we operated were both doing well, but we wanted to try something new. Don't you want to do something exciting, like we used to do? Well, we're middle-aged now, so if we're going to do it, it's now or never. All right, let's do it. Do what? How about a restaurant where customers can create their own dishes? Wouldn't that be fun? You mean a cooking studio? Not exactly. Imagine they could choose their own pizza toppings, salad dressings, or whatever, and make their own original recipes. Like a drink station but for food? Exactly, something like that. We would import sauces, oils, and herbs directly from Italy. In addition, we plan to offer original products. By including rare and luxurious items that people wouldn't normally try at home, we aim to create a truly exciting experience. We also decided to implement a system where customers could order their favorite items on the spot. It was sure to bring a sense of excitement and joy to our guests. After 3 years of planning, the first store for this new venture was set to open in Tokyo. To celebrate the opening, we organized an exclusive launch event for our employees to enjoy first. Dressed in the staff uniform, I decided to surprise and personally serve our team. Do you really think the employees can relax if you're the one serving them? None of them even know what I look like. Do you think I would let our employees receive such poor education? What? Are they worshiping my photo every morning or something? That's a bit much, but everyone definitely knows the faces of the executives. I'll just put on glasses and disguise myself. More than anything, I wanted to hear their unfiltered thoughts. I wanted to see with my own eyes how our new store would surprise and delight them. On the day of the ceremony, I put on a bow tie, donned glasses, and blended into the crowd. This is amazing, so delicious. Wow, I didn't know these spices existed. I'd love to try this at home. Let's try that one next. The employees were chatting excitedly, enjoying themselves without a care for the serving staff. Watching them eat delicious food and happily customize their dishes, all with radiant smiles, filled me with joy. This is a success, I thought to myself, grinning. Then my attention was drawn to one man causing trouble. He was adding toppings to a female employee's bowl of dressing without her permission. Hey, stop that. It looks better with this added. Don't mess with my food. I'm just helping out. You're being rude. You're the one being rude. The man, likely drunk, continued to smirk and pester her relentlessly. I couldn't just stand by and let it happen. Excuse me, you need to stop bothering her. Huh? Who are you, old man? She clearly doesn't like what you're doing. Shut up. Why don't you stick to serving food or something? I don't take orders from you. Who do you think you are, acting so high and mighty? Just follow the orders of the next president, me. The next president? Who's that supposed to be? Me, of course. I'm Seth. I recognized him. He was one of the new employees who had just joined this spring. I haven't heard anything about that. You're part of the company, aren't you? If you don't know me, you're a fake. You're fired. Seth's loud voice echoed across the venue. He was clearly drunk and emboldened by it. Not content with just shouting insults, he dumped a plate of pasta on my head. The impact knocked my glasses to the floor. Old man, just shut up and eat your pasta. Well, at least it was chilled pasta. The cool, al dente pasta brushed against my cheek. Seth's outrageous behavior startled my buddy, Lucas, who rushed over. James, are you okay? What do you think you're doing? What's your problem, old man? I don't need your lecture. At that moment, Nicola ran over as well. Darling, what happened? You're covered in pasta. I'm fine, don't worry. Just as Nicola offered me a handkerchief, Seth grabbed her hand. Wow, you're gorgeous. Forget this old guy, come have a drink with me. Let go of me. How rude. Wait, what? What are you saying? I don't understand. That angry face of yours isn't bad either. Let go of her. Shut up. Don't get in my way. Who is this man, anyway? Don't worry about this washed-up old man. Let's go. Nicola, visibly agitated, was speaking in Italian, but it seemed Seth didn't understand a word of it. He didn't even notice that Nicola was referring to me as my husband. What's with your attitude? What's your name? Huh? Who the hell are you? Why should the next president like me have to take orders from you? Don't come near me. Useless people like you are such a pain. This must be what people mean when they say they're left speechless. The next president? Him? Ridiculous. How could anyone come to such an absurd conclusion? And why do you think you're the next president? Old man, don't tell me you work here and don't even know the president, Mr. Taylor? That's pathetic. Fine, I'll educate you. The president is David Taylor, who is my dad. So, naturally, I'm the next president. Our company isn't hereditary, but it's merit-based. The chances of you becoming the next president are 0. What are you talking about, old man? Don't be bitter and make excuses. Enough, you need to stop this. This man is... Lucas began, but he was cut off as David, his face pale as a sheet, rushed over from a distance. What are you doing? My deepest apologies for the terrible behavior of my son. Dad, what the hell? Why are you apologizing to these people? Shut up. Be quiet and apologize right now. Watching David bow low while his arrogant son stood defiant, I couldn't help but sigh. I had thought David was more capable, but it seems I had overestimated him. For the sake of the company, a decision had to be made. Seth, was it? I regret to inform you that your father, the current president, has just been dismissed. What? Huh? This is a good opportunity to announce it here. David has been officially removed from his position. Wait, what? Why am I being dismissed? Old man, don't be ridiculous. My dad's the president. And I'm the CEO. CEO? What the hell is that? Stop spouting nonsense. Good grief, he doesn't even know what a CEO is. How did someone like this get hired at our company? This is why I've always argued against nepotism. David, it seems you've been abusing your position for personal gain. What do you mean by that? Don't bother feigning ignorance. We have evidence of your misappropriation of company funds. There must be some mistake. What kind of mistake would result in tens of thousands of dollars disappearing annually? Our company vehicles are all Corollas. None of our executives drive a Lexus. David's face turned ashen as if all the blood had drained from it. And then there's the exorbitant entertainment expenses. Who on earth are you entertaining to rack up such bills? David R's face grew even paler as if all the blood had drained from his body, truly a pitiful sight. On top of that, you've been violating company rules by unilaterally exercising personnel authority. That's preposterous. We've received complaints from every department. Ugh. When the Japan branch was first established, you served as Lucas's right-hand man. Because of that, I considered turning a blind eye to minor issues. But when we investigated, issue after issue came to light. This goes far beyond minor. And the complaints are endless. You change your behavior drastically depending on who you're dealing with. We also have numerous recordings of your inappropriate remarks. And your misuse of company funds is far from negligible. I can't protect you anymore. It's over. David, drenched in cold sweat, stood trembling, his face an unrecognizable shade of pale. This was something I planned to address later, but after witnessing your son's behavior, I can't wait any longer. Your son has no sense of respect when speaking to others, no manners toward women, and doesn't even know basic Italian. Despite our company being headquartered in Italy. Worse still, he doesn't recognize the CEO's face. He is utterly unfit for this company. Starting now, both you and your son are dismissed. This is outrageous. You don't have the authority. This is my company. I make the rules. As much as I dislike saying such words, removing harmful elements from the company as early as possible was a necessity. Besides, you can tell a lot about a parent by observing their child. It seemed I had misjudged him. As I was mulling this over, Lucas turned to me with an apologetic expression. I'm sorry. I failed to see the warning signs. It's my fault for recommending him for president and causing this mess. As his superior, I take full responsibility. I'll resign from my chairman position. That's unnecessary. No, it's my duty. Lucas is a stubborn guy. Once he's made up his mind, there's no changing it. With a heavy sigh, I decided to accept his proposal. All right, you'll step down as chairman. Lucas, you'll take on the role of U.S. operations head starting next month. I'll issue the official order soon. We're opening a new store in Las Vegas. You'll transfer there as an advisor. Wait, what? I just told you I'm resigning to take responsibility. Exactly, so you're being demoted to Las Vegas. How is that a demotion? You're being removed from the chairman position and transferred to our Las Vegas branch. How about it, branch president? I turned to the person already appointed as the branch president for our Las Vegas office. He quietly murmured, "He's very reliable," and gave a firm nod. There you have it. Lucas, do your best. Not you too, Nicola. The employees who had been watching the exchange erupted into enthusiastic chatter. Congratulations on your transfer to the US. Bring us back some souvenirs. Let's have next year's company trip in Las Vegas. Amid the lively laughter, Seth and David stood dumbfounded, watching the scene unfold. Oh, you're still here? The termination notices will be sent out tomorrow. Leave now. They seemed too stunned or perhaps too weak to move. With no other choice, I called security. Please escort these two out. Tonight's party is for employees only. As the father and son were escorted away by security, the light in their eyes had completely faded. Perhaps this experience will teach them a lesson, and they might find a different future. But that future isn't here. There is no place for them in the future of our company. Let them strive in a separate world, one that will never intersect with ours. With that thought silently echoed in my mind, I turned back to face my employees once again. Sorry for the unsightly scene, everyone. Let's start fresh. First, you need a change of clothes. Even for an Italian company, pasta isn't something you wear. Oh, right. Pasta is meant to be enjoyed, not worn. Perfect timing. We had matching outfits tailored for today. Let's put them on. Great idea. I'll get changed. When Nicola and I returned to the venue in our new outfits, the energy in the room soared. Nicola's dress was stunning, so much so that she was absolutely mesmerizing. She truly embodies the perfect image model for our company. Nicola, who once served as the charming face of our small restaurant, has now become a thriving influencer. She has made immense contributions to our company's PR efforts. Her warmth and beauty are sure to win over Las Vegas in no time. I must say, the decision to transfer Lucas to Las Vegas couldn't have worked out better. Here's a little secret: Nicola and I have a son who works in the Las Vegas showbiz industry. With Lucas nearby, I'll feel more at ease, and it will give me more opportunities to visit under the guise of inspections. I hope this will serve as a small gesture of gratitude to Nicola for everything she's done to support us. In this regard, I owe a bit of thanks to those two troublemakers for their perfectly timed intervention. How about making next year's company trip to Las Vegas? That sounds wonderful. Wow, Las Vegas? I can't wait already. We just trimmed unnecessary expenses earlier. Cut me some slack. Fair enough, my apologies. Seeing Lucas scolding us with that adorably serious expression made us burst into hearty laughter. With the dead weight gone, we're free to move forward. First stop, Las Vegas. What's next? Ideas are bubbling up endlessly, and we're full of energy and enthusiasm. Lucas, what's the next step? I'd like to explore a completely different world. Movies, maybe? Sure, that could be fun. Then let's start with a deep dive into the Las Vegas showbiz scene. Of course, it always comes back to Las Vegas. We're not stopping anytime soon, so we'll keep searching for the next exciting challenge. After all, our journey is about bringing smiles to people's faces and filling stomachs worldwide. Today and every day, let our spices brighten your table. Enjoy your one-of-a-kind customized menu and have a dazzling day. Henry, this deal is off. Kyle delivered the unthinkable without a hint of hesitation, leaving my mind in chaos. This job is worth $10 million. What on earth is he talking about? Why, Kyle? This is absolutely ridiculous, isn't it? Even as I shouted, Kyle, with a smug expression, simply chuckled and said, "Nah, we're good. We'll handle it in-house." What he said next only fueled my determination. If you'd just accepted it, I wouldn't have gone this far. But honestly, I don't see us doing business with a small-time company like yours again. I will never forgive Kyle. So, we're officially canceling the contract, then? Suppressing my anger to the limit, I asked for confirmation. Exactly. Sorry about that. His smirk made it clear he wasn't sorry at all, and I felt no inclination to show him any mercy. 1 week later marks the final collection submission deadline and the end of Kyle. My name is Henry, 29 years old. I work at Martin Corporation, which supplies buttons and decorative items to domestic and international fashion brands. I've always loved fashion. I attended a fashion design school in Tokyo, honing my skills and knowledge. Those vibrant days, surrounded by eccentric and uniquely quirky classmates and my beloved girlfriend, were nothing short of exhilarating, and even now, they're a fond memory. As graduation approached, I was torn. Should I join a fashion brand as a designer or work as a salesperson? During that time of indecision, I came across a button on a new product from a fashion brand that instantly captured my heart. It was ruby red, bold enough to make a statement yet seamlessly integrated into the design. The shape of the button was unique, and it was such a fateful encounter that I decided I wanted to make such a button in the future. Excuse me. Do you know where this button is from, or who makes it? Practically lunging at the store clerk, I pressed for answers. Unable to help immediately, they checked with their headquarters. And that's how I discovered Martin Corporation. When I looked them up, I found that Martin Corporation was hiring new graduates. I applied immediately. I made it to the final interview, passionately sharing with the president, Mr. Martin, how deeply I had fallen in love with Martin's buttons, leaving him teary-eyed on the spot and creating a legendary moment. "You're the only one who's ever spoken so passionately about our buttons, Henry." Thank you, it meant a lot to me. When I was hired and heard those words from Mr. Martin at the welcome party, my heart soared. Martin Corporation is a small business, with just a handful of employees in each department. Each of those few employees was an expert in their respective field. However, while this was a significant advantage, it also came with a downside. Losing even one person could deal a severe blow to the company. And then, it happened. One of our few salespeople had to leave due to family circumstances. While everyone was racking their brains for a solution, the unexpected choice to fill the sales gap turned out to be me. There was a reason for this surprising decision. You see, if you're interested, we actually have this type of button in stock. It's easy to customize, so why not give it a try? Initially assigned as a designer, I would casually chat with visiting suppliers and salespeople from other companies, and by a stroke of luck, those conversations sometimes led to orders, something Mr. Martin had noticed. "I'm really sorry. Just temporarily, can you handle sales? Please, I'm begging you." When the respected Mr. Martin bowed his head to me, there was no way I could say no. Plus, the sales manager, Freddie, was a great guy. Freddie, who often chatted with me casually despite being in a different department, would occasionally bring me coffee or chocolate. He felt like an older brother to me. Let me emphasize, though, I was not won over by the coffee or chocolate. "I'm so sorry, Henry. We'll find someone new as soon as possible. I know you wanted to focus on design, but we need you in sales temporarily." Freddie's genuine guilt made me laugh. "It's fine. Don't worry about it." Honestly, I'm more nervous about being so inexperienced. "I'll need your guidance." And so, I unexpectedly found myself working in sales. To my surprise, it turned out to be fascinating. Freddie had strong sales expertise and knew a lot about fashion brands and apparel, but he sometimes struggled with more technical aspects. Here's the thing. Do you have a button that fits this design? Something like this, conceptually. During one negotiation, a client requested a specific button style. Next to me, Freddie was having a bit of trouble. Designers often have a clear vision of what they want to create in their minds, but putting that into words can be a real challenge for many. I frequently witnessed such struggles back in fashion school while helping my friends with their assignments. "No, that's not it. It's like this. And here, it should be like that." With deadlines looming, friends would come to me on the verge of tears, and I found myself constantly carrying colored pencils and sketch pads. I became adept at sketching designs on paper while asking, "Is this what it means?" My knack for turning ideas into visuals meant that, as deadlines approached, it wasn't unusual for a group of classmates to gather around me. Seeing Freddie struggling with a client's request brought me back to those days. I pulled a sketchbook out of my bag and spread it out in front of the client. "Excuse me for interrupting. Regarding what you were explaining to Freddie earlier," I said, quickly sketching a design on the paper. Next to me, Freddie looked surprised, and the client's face lit up with a delighted smile. "Yes. Exactly. That's what I was thinking. And here, we could adjust this a bit more like this." I carefully translated the client's ideas into a visual form, nodding and incorporating their feedback as I went along. The final design sketch seemed to hit the mark. It was exactly what they had envisioned, and they were delighted. Taking the opportunity, I decided to share my perspective as a designer. If I may, just one suggestion. About the collar here, if we adjust it this way, the silhouette would look cleaner and would likely appeal more to your target demographic. I enlarged the sketch of the collar area, and the client's eyes sparkled with understanding. Ah, I see. That's it. Something felt off, and this was the issue. Thanks. Mind if we try this idea out? Should I pay you for your advice? I couldn't help but laugh at that. Oh, no. Consider the advice free. But if my suggestion helps boost your sales, I do have a request. Please consider using Martin buttons for your future designs. I know not every piece will require decorative buttons, but for anything button related, I hope you'll think of Martin first. You see, our buttons are. As my passion for Martin's buttons kicked in, I began to enthusiastically promote them, only to be stopped by Freddie. Stop. I apologize. Henry is the guy who fell in love with our buttons and joined the company because of it. His passion for Martin's buttons is so strong it even brought the president to tears, and once he starts talking about them, he doesn't stop. I'm so sorry, I got carried away. How embarrassing. Shrinking a little from my usual habit of overenthusiasm, I was relieved when the client laughed and graciously accepted it. That's amazing. To love your company's product that much, it's impressive. Honestly, I wish my employees would learn from you. The client's candid and lighthearted comment helped me regain my composure. I'd like to build a long-term partnership with you. And that's not just lip service, I genuinely mean it. Your advice was spot on. And your ability to capture ideas so clearly makes working with you a pleasure. It was a mistake not to have partnered with Martin Corporation sooner. Let's formalize a continuous contract right now. The client extended their hand, and I shook it, overwhelmed with joy. Thanks to this collaboration, Freddie and I successfully secured the contract. From that point onward, things continued to progress smoothly, and before I knew it, we had achieved a significant increase in revenue. I'm seriously torn right now. Should we just have Henry stay in sales permanently? It seems I was able to contribute to the company enough to make Mr. Martin say that without hesitation. Wow, Henry, you're incredible. You clearly have a gift. How about teaching me a thing or two? Wait, Mr. Martin, hold on. Sales is fun, but I want to work on design closer to you. As for what I could teach Freddie, it'd probably just be some theoretical knowledge about fashion brands. We laughed and joked together, sharing both the hard times and the successes, and each busy day passed by with a sense of fulfillment. I'm fortunate to work with great clients and to be surrounded by good people. Of course, rude or thoughtless individuals are out of the question, but I generally don't form strong likes or dislikes for people. After all, everyone has their strengths and weaknesses, there's no such thing as a perfect person. However, there was one time I met someone I simply couldn't get along with, no matter what. That person was Kyle, whom I encountered at a fashion-related exhibition. It's a large-scale event with tons of people attending, Henry. It's your first time, so it might be tiring, but let's do our best together. Yes. I'm ready. I'll showcase the charm of Martin buttons to everyone who stops by. Leave it to me. The exhibition drew top-notch buyers, media professionals, and executives from leading fashion brands. It was a major business opportunity that only came around once a year. I focused entirely on showcasing the new natural stone buttons created by Mr. Martin, which, thanks to their unique cutting method, looked just like gemstones. The natural qualities of the stone gave each button a unique texture, and the way it was cut affected its brilliance. This made it nearly impossible to create identical pieces, but that very uniqueness is what made each button a truly special one-of-a-kind item. Nowadays, more people choose to wear clothes that they personally like and feel good in, rather than simply following trends. For those who want to avoid blending in and prefer something unique, these buttons would undoubtedly strike a chord. As expected, our booth was consistently crowded with visitors, and both Freddie and I, along with the rest of the staff, were kept incredibly busy. "Oh, this is amazing," said Kyle as he approached and struck up a conversation. "My name is Kyle from Motoki. Nice to meet you." Motoki was a fast-growing apparel brand targeting women over 40, boasting impressive sales figures. "Hello, I'm Freddie from Martin Corporation. Pleased to meet you. I'm Henry. Nice to meet you as well." Kyle directed numerous questions about the natural stone buttons Martin had presented at the exhibition. "Are these natural stone buttons something special?" "Yes, they are. Compared to traditional natural stone buttons, these have higher durability. Most importantly, each button is one of a kind, which makes them highly appealing to people who prefer unique fashion choices," Freddie explained passionately. As Freddie passionately explained, Kyle responded with a nonchalant, picking up one of the sample buttons on display. He rubbed it between his hands thoughtfully, nodded to himself, and then, without warning, threw it from a high position like a baseball pitcher. Ah! The button hit the floor with a sharp clink and rolled away. I quickly rushed to pick it up, anxiously inspecting it for any damage. Seeing my reaction, Kyle smirked. "Why so panicked? It's supposed to be durable, right? Something like this shouldn't break." Laughing at what he called my overreaction, Kyle seemed amused. Freddie, however, gently but firmly admonished him. "Of course, it's durable, we stand by that confidently. However, even if it's just a sample, we'd appreciate it if you didn't handle it carelessly." At Freddie's words, Kyle let out a dismissive snort, looking unimpressed. "Well, the concept of being one of a kind is good, I'll give you that. Natural stone buttons, huh? Interesting. For a small company like yours? At least you've got a good eye for ideas. What is with this guy?" I had never been treated with such a condescending attitude by someone I'd just met. A good eye for ideas. Just a good eye? Just? Seriously? Why is he speaking so arrogantly? Before I could say anything, Kyle casually wandered off to another booth. I took a few deep breaths to calm myself down, and as I did, Freddie patted me on the shoulder. "Henry, you handled that well. Unfortunately, people like him exist. Though, I have to say, it's been a while since I've met someone that rude." Thanks to Freddie's support, I managed to calm down. The booth remained bustling with visitors, and as I kept engaging with clients, my mood gradually improved. At one point, I thought I saw a woman with black hair pass by, out of the corner of my eye. I instinctively turned to look, but she disappeared into the crowd before I could get a better glimpse. Though I couldn't quite shake off the curiosity, I focused on continuing to pitch the natural stone buttons to the numerous visitors who stopped by. By the end of the day, I was tired but had a strong sense of accomplishment. After the exhibition ended, several of the connections we made turned into business negotiations, resulting in successful contracts. As Freddie, the staff, and I celebrated the success of our hard work, we received an unexpected phone call from Kyle. "Freddie, it's Kyle from Motoki on the phone." "Kyle? Got it. Hello, this is Freddie speaking." Yes. I watched Freddie closely as his expression and tone transformed into one of delight. "Really? That's fantastic. Thank you so much." "Yes, we'll review it internally and get back to you with our decision as soon as possible." After ending the call, Freddie turned to us with a beaming smile and shouted excitedly, "Kyle from Motoki just called. They want to use Martin's natural stone buttons for their new collection to be showcased internationally. It's a $10 million deal, the largest in Martin's history. The mention of $10 million sent cheers echoing throughout the company. Although Mr. Martin was pleased, he calmly called for everyone to stay focused. That's incredible. But when's the deadline? Do we have enough materials? There's a lot we'll need to figure out. Yes, I've just received an email. They're requesting amethyst buttons, peridot buttons, and... As Freddie reviewed the email, he saw that it detailed the types and quantities of natural stone buttons required. Among them, a few items raised concerns about the availability of raw materials, which would need to be verified. Mr. Martin looked over the email, gave a firm nod, and declared to everyone, "All right. Let's make this project a success. It's going to get busy, but I'm counting on everyone's cooperation." His words instantly lifted everyone's spirits. A resounding yes echoed through the room, and I felt my own determination surging. At the factory, production ran at full capacity, and we scrambled to gather any materials that seemed in short supply. The deadline was tight, but everyone worked tirelessly, sacrificing sleep to ensure the project's success. Finally, 2 months later, we managed to meet the deadline. The completed products were carefully packed into boxes, now neatly stacked in the warehouse, ready for delivery. The sight of the neatly stacked boxes, the result of everyone's hard work, filled the team with pride as they looked on. Great job! We made it on time, and it's all thanks to everyone here. I truly appreciate your efforts, thank you. And this year, you can look forward to a great bonus. Everyone was delighted by Mr. Martin's words. While words of appreciation and recognition are rewarding, let's be honest, nothing beats the joy of a bigger paycheck. I, too, began daydreaming about how I'd spend my bonus, unable to suppress a small grin. All right, let's deliver this to Motoki. We handle deliveries to clients all the time, but a deal this big makes me a bit nervous. Don't trip, and drive safely, my colleagues called out jokingly as they sent Freddie and me off to Motoki. When we arrived, we were supposed to meet with Kyle, but... I'm sorry, Kyle is currently out. When we asked the receptionist to call Kyle for us, she said this, leaving both Freddie and me confused. No matter how many times we asked for confirmation, we got the same response, so we took turns calling Kyle. When I made the call, I finally got through to Kyle. Ah, Kyle. I'm glad I finally got through. Excuse me, but where are you? We've brought the delivery for you. In response to my words, Kyle let out an exaggerated tone. Oh. Right. About that deal, yeah, just cancel it. I couldn't understand what Kyle meant and looked up at Freddie while still holding the phone. Freddie gave me a look as if to ask, "What's wrong?" But I couldn't answer, I was too stunned. Wait a minute. What do you mean, cancel? We've already produced the order and brought it to your company. In response, Kyle spoke in an annoyed tone. Yeah, just cancel it. We don't need it anymore. Kyle's actions made my blood boil. Don't need it? That's ridiculous. I was so furious that I couldn't find the words. Freddie, his face tense, took the phone from me and put it on speaker. Henry, the deal's off. Freddie's eyes widened in shock. He spoke so casually about canceling the deal. But I couldn't help thinking about the faces of everyone at the company who had worked so hard on this project. Why, Kyle? This is outrageous, isn't it? Kyle sighed at my outburst. His attitude made it seem as though I was the one being unreasonable. If you just understood, I wouldn't have had to say this, but... I don't think we'll be doing business with a small company like yours anymore. I will never forget those words. They were the most infuriating words I had ever heard in my life. Even Freddie's face was filled with an anger I had never seen before. I will never forgive Kyle. Then, you're officially canceling the contract? I asked Kyle, barely holding back my anger. Yeah. Sorry about that. He wasn't sorry at all. I could picture his smug, smirking face in my mind. I see. Well then, goodbye. I hung up the phone and exchanged glances with Freddie. Overwhelmed by an indescribable exhaustion, I closed my eyes. Freddie patted my shoulder as we headed back to the car, and I didn't say a single word all the way back to the office. So, I see. That must have been tough. I'm sorry, and thank you. Mr. Martin listened to our report and expressed his gratitude for our efforts. Even though he must have been just as shocked as we were. I felt tears of frustration welling up. What should we do now? We've already made so much, and we'll have to figure out what to do with the inventory. But don't worry, Henry. We've faced tough times before, and we'll get through this too. His optimistic words snapped me out of my gloom, making me realize I couldn't afford to wallow. That's true. I'll double down on sales, give it everything I've got. And I'll help however I can. And I swear, I'll make Kyle regret this. Hearing my words, the two of them laughed. No physical retaliation, Henry. Yeah, that'd be bad. But I like your determination. Alright, let's all do our best. Mr. Martin then addressed the team, explaining how the sudden cancellation of the deal had been a blow to everyone's morale, leaving the entire company feeling shocked and angry. However, his positive words gradually lifted everyone's spirits, bringing back a sense of hope. What makes Mr. Martin truly remarkable is not just his technical skill, but his ability to inspire and motivate those around him. Still, the question of what to do with inventory worth $10 million lingered in my mind. Just as I was pondering this, I received a call on my phone from someone I hadn't heard from in a long time. It was an unexpected person, and that call would go on to change everything. A week after the canceled deal, Kyle stormed into the office, his face bright red. Hey! Freddie, Henry! His furious expression startled the female employees, some of whom let out small screams. I stepped in front of Kyle, who had barged in without warning. You tricked me. Why does that button have a patent? The commotion brought Mr. Martin to the scene. If you're going to make such a scene, I'll have to call the police. If you can calm down and talk, let's head to the meeting room. At the mention of the police, Kyle flared his nostrils but silently followed Mr. Martin and the rest of us. Taking the place of the nervous female employees, I brought the tea. Just in case, I made sure the tea I served to Kyle was lukewarm. Now, about the issue at hand, the patent for the button. I developed the cutting method, so we secured the patent. That means only our company can produce those buttons, Mr. Martin explained calmly. Hearing this, Kyle's eyes widened, and he burst out in anger. Why didn't you tell me? I told my president, Mr. Moore, that we could save costs by making those buttons ourselves with cheaper in-house products. Now I find out we can't copy them because of the patent. Why should we have to tell you that? I thought silently, observing his tantrum. We weren't hiding anything. The patent information was clearly displayed at the exhibition. What? It was? Yes, it was written clearly. Look. I showed him a photo on my phone of Freddie and me at the exhibition booth. In the background, behind the two of us smiling and making peace signs, there was a banner that read, Patented Cutting Method for Natural Stone Buttons. Well, he probably hadn't noticed it. Given how carelessly he treated the buttons, it was clear Kyle was sloppy and inattentive in many ways. No way, this can't be happening. Mr. Moore said the collection couldn't proceed without those buttons. Kyle's earlier bluster was nowhere to be found as his face turned pale. After all, participating in a collection requires enormous expenses. Between models, stylists, hair and makeup artists, and promotional costs, the total quickly climbs into the millions. While Motoki is currently a thriving company, its president, Moore, is said to have the temperament of a pure designer. Once he makes a decision, he is absolutely unwilling to change it. He was a few years ahead of me at fashion school, and my teachers often mentioned him. That guy's got genius in his blood. His sense of style is unparalleled. If someone like him had set his sights on our natural stone buttons, not being able to use them could very well lead to withdrawing from the collection altogether. The potential revenue from the collection would also be lost. I might be speaking as if it's someone else's problem, but this is a serious matter. Please. There's still time. Deliver the buttons to us. I'll make sure you're properly paid. What is this guy even saying? I thought, glaring at Kyle with a bitter expression. After all, he was the one who mocked our company relentlessly and unilaterally canceled the contract. I couldn't accept this at all. Isn't that far too convenient? You looked down on our company and treated our products poorly. You unilaterally canceled the contract. And now you're asking us to deliver the buttons because you're in trouble? Henry is absolutely right. I'm sorry, but we have no intention of selling those natural stone buttons to you. We will not engage in any further transactions with you. Please leave. At Mr. Martin's words, Kyle dropped to his knees in a deep bow. Please, I'm begging you. If you won't sell them to us, could you at least let us use the patent? I'm afraid that's not possible either. Please leave. Do I really need to call the police? With this final warning from Mr. Martin, Kyle's face turned as white as a sheet, and he stumbled out of the office in a daze. Watching him leave, I couldn't help but feel a sense of satisfaction. That just goes to show, if you don't treat people with integrity in your work, this is the kind of ending you'll face. Yes, we should be mindful of that. Learn from others' mistakes and improve ourselves. I'll keep that in mind. I'll be careful too. I'll make sure never to act arrogantly toward others. Oh, Mr. Martin. The Zoom meeting is about to start. We need to hurry. Oh no, we're cutting it close. What's the meeting ID again? Looking at my watch, I saw that our meeting with the international luxury brand was just 10 minutes away. And we rushed to the president's office in a hurry. The truth is, the call I had received earlier was from my ex-girlfriend, Amelia. Amelia is an exceptionally talented designer who landed a job with a prestigious international brand and moved overseas. The reason we broke up was because of her move abroad. I wanted to go with her, but I didn't have the skills to make it in a foreign environment. Though she genuinely wanted to stay with me and even considered finding a way to remain in Japan, I insisted. You need to go overseas, and sent her off. Amelia cried, and I admit I put on a brave face, but it was her life. I wanted Amelia to travel the world freely and wholeheartedly pursue her dreams. Take care. I watched her plane take off, tears streaming down my face, a bittersweet memory from the past. After gaining experience and honing her craft overseas, Amelia had been entrusted with an entire collection by her brand, a major accomplishment. But, under immense pressure and struggling for inspiration, Amelia impulsively returned to Japan upon hearing about an exhibition. At that exhibition, she stumbled upon Martin's natural stone buttons. Seeing the buttons sparked her creativity, and she rushed back to her hotel, working tirelessly to complete her design sketches without even stopping to eat or drink. The idea of making each natural stone button unique, almost like a serial number, struck her as fascinating. After consulting her team back overseas, they decided to proceed with the concept. So, I need those buttons. As many as you can spare. Amelia's cheerful and familiar voice on the phone surprised me, and her request astonished me even more. It felt like she was a savior sent to rescue us. When I explained our current predicament, Amelia was furious. Who is this guy? I can't believe it. People like that exist? He does. Even I was shocked. But I'm even more surprised that you called out of the blue. It's like a miracle. Hey, Amelia. Don't take this the wrong way, but are you sure about this? Excuse me? Okay, I get why you'd ask. But don't worry, I would never break a contract like that. Keeping the call connected, I hurried over to Mr. Martin. I explained about Amelia and how she wanted as many buttons as we could provide, and Mr. Martin looked visibly surprised. It was understandable, these past few hours had been such a roller coaster that it was hard to keep up. Sorry, can I take over the call? Amelia, Mr. Martin says he'd like to speak with you directly. Is that okay? Of course. Please let him know everything. I handed my phone to Mr. Martin, and the two of them began talking. After about 20 minutes, seemingly having covered all the main points, the conversation came to an end. Returning the phone to me, Mr. Martin spoke with a reflective tone. This is incredible. Things like this really happen, don't they? If she noticed you at the exhibition, she could have said hello. That reminded me of the black-haired woman I'd seen at the exhibition. It must have been Amelia. Now that I thought about it, she had moved with incredible speed back then. She's truly a natural-born genius. I think sketching the designs that came to her mind took priority over talking to me. That's always been her way. Even during dates, she would suddenly exclaim, "Ah," and immediately start sketching a design. At first, it surprised me. But I eventually started calling it her creative time and patiently waited until she was done. Amelia always apologized, but I loved seeing her so focused and dedicated. That's why I actually looked forward to her creative time. It's a secret I'd never shared with anyone, not even her. I'm going to become a famous designer while my grandmother is still alive. I want to repay her for raising me, she often said. That was her mantra, and she worked tirelessly toward that dream. Amelia lost her parents at a young age and was raised by her grandmother in the countryside. Because of this, she didn't have many friends her age growing up. Her grandmother was skilled at dressmaking and had a sewing machine at home. Growing up watching her grandmother make clothes, it's only natural that Amelia became interested in fashion design. I used to make outfits for my Barbie dolls, always with a theme. Today it's a party, tomorrow it's camping. Those were the happiest moments for me. I think I was in middle school when I made a dress for my grandma, and she cried tears of joy. That made me so happy. Though the dress was a simple long skirt due to her limited skills at the time, her grandmother was overjoyed. That's when I realized how wonderful it feels to make someone happy with something I created. From then on, all I wanted was to become a designer. I wanted to show my grandma in the countryside that I'd become a professional designer as soon as possible. Amelia adored her grandmother and visited her in the countryside every chance she got. I had the pleasure of meeting her grandmother once, and she was a lovely person who always supported Amelia wholeheartedly. Let's do our best today. The Zoom meeting began, and Amelia, Mr. Martin, Freddie, and I continued the discussion. In the end, it was decided that we would supply the current stock of buttons and also take an additional order for more natural stone buttons. Is the budget going to be okay? I asked worriedly, and Amelia laughed. Don't worry, I've already cleared it with the company. Besides, if this collection is a success, it'll definitely benefit the company. My boss always says that designers like me, who rely on intuition, should take risks and make lots of mistakes. He laughed and said they can cover the cost of any failures by young designers like me. As expected from a world-class luxury brand. The sheer scale of their resources was unimaginable, and honestly, it made me feel a bit overwhelmed. The same was true for Mr. Martin and the others, whose faces were equally tense. That's incredible. Rest assured, we will craft exactly what Amelia envisions, Mr. Martin said. Thank you. When it comes to creating something delicate and intricate, I believe Japanese craftsmanship is unmatched. Regardless of the company's size, great products naturally captivate and enchant people. I felt that with Martin's buttons, they inspired me. So, I'm counting on you. As the Zoom call ended, Mr. Martin's eyes glistened with tears, as if all the hard work he had poured into making buttons was finally paying off. For those who create, there's a unique blend of struggle and joy. It's knowing the joy that comes after creating something that gives you the strength to keep going. Reflecting on this, I realized again that while sales is enjoyable, I truly wanted to design. After that, we all came together as a company and worked tirelessly to craft the buttons. When everything was delivered, and Amelia's jacket featuring the natural stone buttons was unveiled in her collection, it quickly became a sensation. The idea of treating the one-of-a-kind natural stone buttons like serial numbers resonated with celebrities and royalty, who didn't want to be like anyone else, making the collection a resounding success. The pieces fetched high prices, and Amelia gained recognition as a promising young designer. The natural stone buttons, which became a centerpiece of Amelia's collection, attracted international orders thanks to the collection's impact, significantly boosting Martin's sales. Thank you, it's all thanks to you. I'm heading back to Japan to see my grandmother. I even sent home the trophies and awards I received so she can see them. That's right, your grandma will be so happy. You're her pride and joy. Amelia told me this after the collection had wrapped up and things had settled down a bit. Her voice was filled with joy at the thought of being able to make her grandmother proud. Hey, do you think we could meet up, even just for a day? I'd like to thank you properly for everything. Maybe over a meal? I was delighted by her invitation and made time to see her. Although part of me worried she might tell me about a new lover she'd found overseas, which would sting my lingering feelings. I still wanted to meet her. But when we met, Amelia not only thanked me for the project but also said something that completely surprised me. If you're okay with a long-distance relationship, would you be willing to date me again? As my boyfriend? Overwhelmed with happiness, I hugged her right then and there and said yes. After enduring a long-distance relationship, we eventually got married. Amelia wore a wedding dress she designed herself, and she was the most beautiful person in the world. Seeing her grandmother cry tears of joy made me tear up as well. Promising to be the best partners in both life and work, we had the happiest wedding in the world.